how is the way that Cardi was used by the Biden-Harris administration different than what they saying Trump did with Lil Wayne? How is it any different? Like, why?
Yeah, because Lil Wayne to be called the coon is like, well,
it's like why do we pressure people to vote in this herd mentality? It's like no other community does that.
Right.
No other community does that. Like you see Hispanics, they vote is all over the place. Of course, white people, everybody has the free reign to do what they want to do. Except for black people, we feel like we always have to be on code. What if the fucking code is wrong? What if the way we moving is wrong, right? So why would we all move one way to our own detriment, right?
Or rewind it a little bit, because I know you wanted to talk about since we're talking about black people speaking up for us, not Ice Cube, but we're going to talk about One Night in Miami.
A Night in Miami. Don't do Regina
You know,
King like that.
I've seen it, bro. A Night in Miami. I've had it like that, and I've seen somebody
One Night in Miami.
One Night in Miami.
You gonna have motherfuckers.
Sound like a porno. You gonna look up One Night in Miami.
Sound like a booty.
Motherfuckers got their remote on Netflix like One
Night in Miami.
This shit ain't on here.
Nah, they gonna find something else. Right.
No.
A Night in Miami.
Yeah. So A Night in Miami, right?
Spoiler alert. Just
watch this film 3 times so far. I'll probably watch it another 1 or 2 times, right? Thought it was a fucking amazing film. I wanted to, before, like, because I don't want to go so much and take so much time just giving like background on the play aspect of it, right. You know, because because that's just like a whole different topic, right? Going into like who the brother is that wrote the play and all of that, right?
Oh, yeah,
I wanted to get y'all take on what you took from this movie, right? Because I felt like there's just so much to take from that, so many lessons, so many discussions, right? That's even relevant to today. So, like, what was kind of like the thing that stood out to you the most?
I mean, so I watched the movie kind of from like an artistic standpoint rather than an analytical standpoint.
Okay. Did you watch it once?
I watched it once.
Yeah, because it's almost like you got to go and get like that second watch or more to like retain some of the shit.
Yeah.
So artistically, what stood out for you?
I mean, I liked some of the elements they put into it. I like the kind of like the backstory, because I had never heard about this story. I never heard about the night. Right. Yeah, I never heard about it. So it was just interesting to see those 4 in a room. Mm-hmm. You know, and the dynamic between them, and then you know the back and forth between Sam Cooke and Malcolm X.
Yeah, that was strong.
You know, yeah.
That was strong, but I think that's where, like, if you don't have that back and forth between them, you don't get a lot of the lessons.
Push the story forward. Right?
Yeah, so you have to have that, and I would love to know, like, where the source material came from, right? Like how accurate. The conversation, the dialogue was, right? Well, I mean, I will say, Tavis, let me get your take.
My take, I watched it twice. So first time it was more visual. Shout out to Regina King for her directed debut, and she killed it. Look, Regina King
she's a monster.
She's a monster.
Yeah. Quietly kept. She's a monster. Not even quietly kept, but she's a monster.
I can't wait for Watchmen to come back out.
Right.
Like,
right.
Man,
I mean, I can take it without the brother walking around with the schlong out and shit. Like,
I don't know what y'all talking about.
You didn't watch Watchmen?
You ain't watch Watchmen?
Oh. No. You gotta watch Watchmen. But have you seen the movie? Have you seen the original movie Watchmen? Watch that movie first.
Yeah.
And then watch the HBO series. It's dope. But
Clumsy Thieves review is coming sooner than later. Quick plug.
But artistically, I loved it. But the main thing that hit me, I went back and watched it again, was that push and pull between Malcolm and Sam Cooke. And I think the main thing I got from it was like, hey, we all, you know, however we go about how we express our concern and love for, you know, people of our color, you know, it doesn't always have to be the same way. Somebody looks at it as like, hey, we need to be more militant. Somebody's like, hey, maybe we approach it from the other side. Like, and also like, why can't we attack this from all different sides?
Exactly.
I don't think we, solve this thing that we call racism with like one agenda. It's like, different people respond to different stimuli. Like maybe you the person that can sing and get people to be like, all right, cool. Like, maybe you look at somebody in a different light. Well, Malcolm's like, they all bad and we need you. We need weapons. We need soldiers. And it's more so like, do we really have to do all that?
Right.
Like, does everybody have to be the same way?
I took so much from this film, right? One of the things that I took from was in the beginning, right? You see how each one of them kind of dealt with a dose of reality, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you see Jim Brown deal with a dose of reality, right? And it was also like it was initially like a weird exchange between him and the white guy, right? Because you almost see like this white guy's just embracing him with like such positive energy,
right.
but you could just tell he was just kind of like thrown off with this whole like, hey, why are you being like this type vibe, right? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until he attempted to go into the house to where this guy just so casually said like, hey, we don't allow niggas in the house.
I yelled.
I was waiting on that moment though, because I can see in his face that he was just kind of taken aback by like, hey, why are you being so nice, right? But what it showed me was that these motherfuckers they love you when you running and catching and jumping and singing and dancing, but it's like at the end of the day,
you still
a nigga.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Beneath me, don't forget it.
You seen that with Sam Cooke, right? Where as many hits as he had, right? As great as he was, because you're there for a reason, right? You're there because you fucking Sam Cooke. Right. But you still felt like when you went out there, you still had to play to that white audience, right? It brought me back to a question that Fox asked the other day when we was having a conversation in the shop, and he was saying like, do you feel it's like your responsibility to make white people feel comfortable in certain environments? And I'm like, no, but I can see how a number of black people do, but I'm like, sometimes it can depend on what situation you're in, right? If you're in like because I guess like the two contrasts we were using is like if you got pulled over, right? Essentially like it's your job to just make sure at the end of the day your ass you get home safe, right? But if I'm at home and me and a white woman are going to the fucking elevator that's in the garage, it's not my job to be like, hey, how you doing? I'm Cortez. I live on such and such. Here go my keys. Right. It's just like, it's like, no, this because I don't fucking know. I ain't never seen you here either. It's like you could be, I don't know. You could be who was the white police lady who broke in the brother's door while he was eating ice cream and killed him. It's like, bitch, you could be that motherfucker. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, just having that responsibility of always making white people feel fucking safe, right? And making them feel comfortable. And that's what Sam Cooke did, right? And it still didn't work for him, right? Because they still was just like, I'm good, right? But you seen a moment in the beginning where each one of them kind of dealt with that adversity, right? But then later on in the film, one thing we know for sure, right, is accurate, right? I guess we'll never know. I mean, because like really the only surviving member in that room is still Jim Brown. Jim Brown, yeah. But Jim Brown is not really like all that coherent right now.
He said he don't remember.
But the one thing that we do know is accurate was Malcolm was at the end of Malcolm's life, right? We knew that there was turmoil with him in the nation, and they were pushing him out, right? So we do know for a fact that Malcolm was trying to get Muhammad to join his cause, right? And essentially, in today's culture, we would call that clout chasing. he was trying. That's why Muhammad lunged at him, right? Yeah. Like that's historic. We know that for a fact that Malcolm was hoping that he can bring Muhammad in, and the nation just circumvented him and just swooped him up to the point where they even had Muhammad dissing and disrespecting Malcolm in interviews, right? So it made me think like this, like we never want to see the weakness in great men, right? Because they be so great, but what we never take in accountability is who great men see as great. And often they're not as polarizing figures like Malcolm or Muhammad, right? Sometimes they just the puppet masters. And as great as these men were, they were still human, and they were still kind of led astray by men that they deemed as great.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I took from that. And lastly, the line that Jim Brown said to Malcolm towards the end, when he was just like, again, when we talking about colorism, he asked him, he was just like, man, he's like, you light-skinned brothers, man, it's always y'all like that just seem so militant. He was like, I wonder, is this something you doing like to prove to white people that you with the shits, or are you doing that to prove to black people that you with the shits, right? And you see that to this day, right? Where, again, we talking about colorism and we talking about marginalizing certain groups, and you see like the light-skinned sometimes brothers and sisters, that definitely the brothers feel like they have to be more, I don't know if they feel like they have to be more aggressive, but I think like some of their experiences put them in positions where they're seemingly more aggressive because, I mean, like some people will say, ignorantly say like, you know, light-skinned people are more soft.
But is it that they are, or is it that or that we perceive them that way? Like we have this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like it's ignorant to say so. So right. It's definitely a perception, right? Because, you know, I wish we had the brother on tonight that said it, right? But I was saying like, you know, because he was saying like they haven't experienced like being a real nigga. And I'm like, what's that? I'm like, bro, I know white people that grew up in fucking trailer parks, bro, that had it way tougher than any of us. So I'm like, what is that? Right. Like, why the fuck do black people feel like we have just like this claim to fame on like
authenticity?
Yeah, right. and pain and poverty. I'm like, yo, there's some fucking countries out here, bro, where
they look at us and be like, that's it.
Yeah. Afghanistan. I was in Afghanistan, and I passed the kid my shower shoes, right? Shoes I wear in the shower every day, and you know, he was so happy to have them. I'm like, yo, you happy with these cost $1 in our country. But he was just so happy to have them. You know what I'm saying? That just made me realize, like, yo, we really didn't have it that bad.
Spoiled.
Right, we're spoiled.